Okay, I want to continue reading the Precepts series by RODERICK MacEACHEN. There's two other videos, and this is the Precepts of the First Commandment. It says, anyway, this is chapter 3, Internal and External Faith. The precept of faith is twofold. It is affirmative and it is negative. By the affirmative precept, we are commanded to believe all that God has revealed. We must believe all that the church teaches. The negative precept forbids all dissent and doubt in these truths. We are not bound to keep these truths of faith always present in our mind. We elicit an act of faith at certain times. This is internal faith. Sometimes we are obliged to make such an act of faith. Again, we make an act of faith for the sake of devotion. Thus, we satisfy the precept of faith. The act of faith need not be formally expressed. It need not be expressed in words. It may be internal and implicit. To recite the Apostles' Creed devoutly is an act of faith. To make the sign of the cross, to pray, to hear Mass, to receive the sacraments generally implies faith. Those who have just learned the truths of revelation are bound to make an act of faith. Children are bound to make an act of faith as soon as they have been instructed in the truths of religion. Converts are bound to make an act of faith when they embrace the faith. The faithful sometimes suffer temptations against faith. They should then make an act of faith. When the temptation is strong, they are bound to do so. It is a sin to put off the profession of faith. Many are convinced that ours is the true faith. Then they are under grave obligation to profess the faith as soon as possible. In some countries, there are laws that forbid minors to change their religion. These laws are unjust. Pastors are bound to receive these minors when they desire to enter the church. It matters not what difficulties may follow. It is a holy practice, often to elicit an act of faith. The true Christian gladly makes an act of faith. He includes it in his morning and evening prayers. We are bound to profess our faith openly. This is external faith. Christ has commanded us. He says, "Everyone, therefore, that shall confess me before men, I will confess him before my Father who is in heaven. But he that shall deny me before men, I will deny him before my Father who is in heaven." We must profess our faith. For, says St. Paul, with the heart we believe unto justice, but with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. The precept of external faith is also both affirmative and negative. We are bound to profess our faith. We are also forbidden to deny our faith. The affirmative precept of faith is both divine and ecclesiastical. The divine precept of professing our faith is binding in many cases. In ordinary circumstances, a person may refuse to state his belief, but sometimes this refusal might be equivalent to a denial of faith. Then we must openly profess our faith. Such circumstances might easily arise in time of persecution. A person may be asked whether he is a Catholic. He may be asked about a dogma of faith. It may be in time of persecution by civil power. It may be in times of political turmoil. The state may be opposed to the Catholic faith. The Catholic may suffer great loss by his profession. He may even suffer imprisonment or death, yet he is ever bound to profess his faith openly. He is bound to profess his faith even though he be questioned privately by a public official. Sometimes he is bound to profess his faith before private individuals. They may be animated with hatred toward the faith. They may wish to make him ashamed of his religion. Then he is bound to profess it. Silence is sometimes a denial of faith. Scoffers may mock the faith in the presence of a Catholic. They may declare that there is no one present that would profess such a faith. Then the Catholic is bound to speak. He is bound to declare his faith openly. An action may be a denial of faith. To sacrifice to idols was all that the pagan persecutors demanded of the early Christians. They knew this would mean a denial of the Christian faith. To miss Mass on Sunday might be a denial of faith. This could happen in times of bitter hostility to the Church. The enemy watches for those who go to the Catholic Church. A weak Catholic might stay away to conceal the fact that he is a Catholic. He would thus deny his faith. It is a grave sin to deny the faith. Denial of faith may be direct or indirect. It is a direct denial willfully and knowingly to reject the true faith. It is also a direct denial of faith to accept a false belief. To assist at false religious worship is an indirect denial of the faith. The person may not intend to deny his faith, yet others may look upon his action as a denial of the faith. He may give scandal to others. Sometimes a denial of faith may be merely external. A person says he does not believe. In his heart, he still believes. He intends to deceive those to whom he makes his denial. This is also a grave sin. It is a grievous offense against God. It is not permitted to make this external denial of faith, even to save our lives. A feigned denial of faith is a lie of action. It is a grave insult to God. It is a grave scandal to others. A person who makes such a denial of faith does not indeed become a heretic, yet he commits a grave sin against the precept of faith. It is permitted to flee in time of persecution. Some indeed may be bound in duty to remain. Pastors and bishops should stay with their flock. There are others who would do well to remain and suffer. They might comfort and strengthen others. Then there are others who should flee for the common good. They may be needed by the church. Others may be weak. They should flee lest they fall away. To endure trials and death is a great gift of God. There is no place for rashness in time of persecution. God gives the grace of fortitude to those who are forced to suffer for him. Yet some have been rash. They rushed into danger. They trusted to their own human fortitude, but they fell away. Sometimes an action may be a denial of faith. Under certain circumstances, to eat meat on Friday might be equivalent to a denial of faith. This might happen when there is an obligation of professing the faith openly. Thus, to eat meat on Friday might show contempt for the authority of the church. It might show approval of false belief. At times, it is permitted to use equivocal words. This supposes that there is then no obligation of making an open profession of faith. A person is asked about his religion. He may say, "Oh, that is not your concern. I am a Christian." God demands courage and character to those who serve him. The moral coward is always a poor Christian. Christ set us the example of a true Christian life. It is to be a life of trial and temptation. The history of our Holy Church is glorious in the lives of the great saints and martyrs. They were strong in faith. They were fearless before the threats and temptations of the world. They professed the faith boldly before men. Well may we strive to imitate them. Proudly indeed do we profess the faith, for which countless multitudes of valiant martyrs laid down their lives. It is our greatest pride and glory to profess the faith of Christ. Gladly do we profess our faith before the world, but we profess it modestly. We are meek in our faith. We know that it is God's greatest gift to us. Hence we are forbearing toward those who dwell in the darkness of error. We pray that God may grant them the light of faith. Every day of our lives, we thank God for having given us the true Catholic faith. Okay. Hope you enjoyed that. That was actually very interesting. To have courage to profess our faith, especially in a world that's so hostile to the truth, which is what we live in today. Take care.